Hello, we're back. We have a lot of moving parts that are going to take place on this particular signature. So what I want to do is get the foundation laid, and then we can start working on the flaps. This is the base page. It is going to measure 8 inches across by 8.5 inches in height. Now, this is coming out of the 12 by 12. This is one of their patterns in solids. Down here along the bottom, I stripped off, I think this is 8 inches. This came off of the 8 by 8s off the bottom. And then I cut, I'll give you the measurements here. Then I cut a gingham print to sit up on the top along my scallop, and then I took what was left of the row of hearts off that sticker sheet. It kept coming off, so I thought, well, we'll use you. Must be what you want. So it's going to come down here and sit like this. Now, this particular pocket measures 8 inches in the length, and I do believe my starting point was at 3.5 inches. So make your adjustments accordingly for your die or punch or not. I need to get some tape on the back side of this. Okay. I admire those people who can work on a clean surface. I am all over the place, and I've tried to be clean, but it just doesn't work for my style. I guess I like a little chaos. I don't know what to say. So that's why you see all these parts here. I do it because I have them laid out the way I want them. It helps me to remember what my intent was. Like I said, I admire, oh, for Pete's sake, I admire those who can do that. They have a skill set I would love to have. All right, let's try this again. Let's get this lined up here in the corner on this end, and then it will follow that across the bottom. So I am taking this little scalloped piece, and it measured, just if you're kind of curious, it ended up from the peak 1 inch. And I have a scored edge right here that's from the die. So that's what I am following when I put this in. Okay, and then this is going to go down here along the bottom. And again, this came out of the 8 by 8s. I gave my hands a rest over the weekend. They needed it, but I think I'm going to have to remember to wear my wrist braces all the time. Okay, it's already down. It's too late. I have this off. It's too late. it is what it is. Okay, now let's get with flap number 1. I need to turn this. I scored this thinking I was going to do one thing and ended up doing another, so my score line is, my tape's on the wrong side. All right, so this is going to measure at 4 3/8 across by 8.5 inches, and you're only going to score it 1/2 inch. And then we're just going to wrap this right around. And then the next one should be measuring pretty close to the same. 4 3/8 by 8.5, and you're only going to score it 1/2 inch. Now the next flap will be your flap for the outside. And on the right side, I started out with 5 inches, lost a little bit because of the die trim. So my final trim piece looks like it's coming in at about 4 7/8. 8.5 inches in the height. This one you are going to score at 1/2, and then you're going to score it at 5/8. We need this hinge on the top, so we're going to bring this all the way to that 1/2 inch score line, so that when this folds over, it puts that hinge on the top, because it's going to have to absorb some of the buildup that we're going to be doing on the flap that was on the inside that we've already put down. Okay, so we've got that one in. And then this one should be pretty much the same measurement. So, yep, so I'm at 4 7/8 on my finish, but I started at 5, and again, I lost because of my trim. And that might be the same way with you with your punches, because I know that they've got, you lose a little bit when you run it through your punch. So just keep that in mind. Now it's still going to measure 8.5 inches in height. You're going to score it at 1/2, and you're going to score it at 5/8. And again, I want that on the top so that it will help absorb the bulk we're about to put in here. Okay. I'm just kind of reinforcing that 5/8 score. All right, so for me, these come together in this fashion. It's a little wonky here. Okay, now let's get back in here to this internal flap here. From your 8x8, you're going to pull out this pattern piece. On the reverse side, it has this. I want the floral side. It's going to come in here like this. And then also from the 8x8, you should still have some of this left over. So I trimmed it to fit, because we're going to make a little pocket here. Oh God, I just had a little visual oops. I've got to hide that. No. Okay. So this is going to come and snuggle up just right in front of that 1/2 inch score line. And then if I cut this right, put this right in front of that score line, and it will come right out here to this edge. I do want to get rid of my pencil marks. I need my skinny tape. And this little guy, mine trimmed in at 4 inches by 2 3/8. 4 inches by 2 3/8. But do verify your measurements for your pocket. Might help if I put this down first. I can't see that line very well, so I'm going to bring it a little closer to me. And then I'm going to put my pocket in. Tuck all that tape under. And I'm going to start here next to that score line, because if I need to trim, I can trim it off on my right side end. Do I need to do that? Yes, I do need to do just a little tiny bit. How best to attack this? Just a little tiny bit. This maybe. You know, I wish it was, sometimes when this happens, I wish they were bigger when I have to trim off. I'm going to turn it upside down, because then it's easier to get a hold of. Okay. And then I'll glue this in. So this is kind of a continuation of this pattern here. Okay, so that side's done. Okay, now we're going to come over here and we're going to put this side in, and it is the same look as the other one. We're going to put this in here like so, and then the pocket and the tuck is going to go down here on the bottom. Now, if this is your first album with me, I do not, very rarely will I provide measurements for this. It's just too much measurements. I do what's called trim to fit. So I'm roughly about 1/16, no more than 1/8 of an inch border around. I want the paper to be the accent, and I want that cardstock to be just the ever the slightest little trim. It's kind of one of those situations where I want it to be seen but not heard. If you want your borders to be larger, it's your album. So by all means, just trim it out to what makes you happy. So it kind of works in your favor because I'm not providing you measurements that you don't intend to use. That one went in just perfect. Where did my... There it is. Pencil marks. Okay, so that's what we have right now on the inside of these flaps. We're going to close this, and this is where we're going to do some build up. So hopefully my intent on this will work. First off, we are going to take from the 8x8 collection, you're going to take this sheet out. Now, it is shorter than this is because this is 8.5 and these are only 8 inches. So you're going to trim them and you're going to put these right up here at the top and right here at the bottom. And then in my scraps, I had a yellow strip and that's going to fit in here. Now I'm going to try to balance it so that there's a little bit of a border between these in here. So that's going to take place on both sides. You should only need one of the 8x8s to do this. I'm going to start here on the bottom because it's an edge that I can see very easy. And it will help me set everything else up. Now, this one. I'm going to bring this to me. I apologize, but I need to see how much I'm leaving up there. All right, so this is a 1/4 inch strip. It should sit in here so that you have a little bit, maybe 1/8 of an inch in between the two pieces. And I will just balance that right in there. Now we're going to repeat that same process over here. All right, so this one goes on the bottom, this one goes on the top. Again, I'm going to start with the bottom piece. Okay, now the top piece. And then my little strip. there. Okay, now we're going to build on this. You are going to cut where'd it go? You're going to cut 4 pieces that are going to measure 4 3/8 by 3 1/2. You'll want 4 of these. Then you're going to cut 4 that are going to be 3 1/2 by 4 1/2. These are going to sit in here this way. So you've got a 4 1/2 and you've got a 4 3/8. So 4 3/8 is going to go to the inside, and you're going to tape it right up along that score line right there. And then this is going to tape. Oh, I did that backwards. What? I'm such a ding-a-ling. I wanted to hide this. Well, that's okay. I can fix it. I can fix it. All right. So this one's going to glue or tape right here at the top. Then this one is going to glue or tape to the inside up on the top. So when this opens up, then this one's going to come down and it's going to open up into the page rather than it doing this, because then you've got all this movement going on where it's top and bottom. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to balance this. So see, I am at 3 3/4, and I want this. Okay, got it. I'm going to come in here. You know what? I need to see that edge, so I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to install it upside down. And that way I can see this edge. And then I'm going to, and that's the 3 1/2 by 4 1/2. So we're going to, while I've got it upside down, I'm going to do the same thing over here. I have my 3 1/2 by 4 1/2. And this I really wanted hidden, but that's okay. There's more of this, so I am going to cut yellow strips to cover this. All right? There's always a fix. Now this, because I want it to open this way, so when this one opens, this one's going to open up into the signature. I wonder if that would cover that, if that would work. That would, let me walk this through here, because we're putting another one on the bottom. So this one would go on the bottom. And then this one, I'm thinking it would make a waterfall like. So if it was here, and I'm attaching that here, then this would go here. I'm sorry, I just decided I wanted to try this. Like, if I covered up that way, I'm not covering up to me. So if I did that, this is going to lay like a waterfall. So then you would open this up this way, and then this is going to open up this way. So they're both opening out of the album. One would be on the top and one would fold out on the bottom. or I can stick with my original plan so that you're not having to always have everything on the outside of the album. I can come in here and still mount this right here along this score line. So then this one remains here inside the album, and this one folds over and it hides it, and that's what I'm going to do. So to accomplish this, you're going to take the 4 3/8 and you're going to run it right up next to that score line on the piece you've already installed. Okay. And because I'm taping mine, if I have a mistake, I can always take undo. All right, so all right, I am going to release that a little bit. I want to back that off of that hinge just a smidgen. Whoops, not very much. I just want to take the bulk off of that score mark. So now I'm thinking again. No, I'm going to stay this way because it is cut 1/8 of an inch shorter. So I'm going to split the difference here. I just want it off that score line just a bit. And I also see another problem. This doesn't look like it trimmed out straight, so bear with me. So this should be 3.5 inches. Yeah, it was off just a bit, but doesn't make a difference here. Okay. All right. Just back off of it just a little bit. Oh, it lays down a lot easier, a lot easier. You could. I'm not going to be able to do that on mine. Well, I might. If you're watching and you're not building, consider putting a magnet behind this one, but put your partner behind this piece here. So that way it would keep it closed, but that means you're using 4 sets of magnets, if that's what you want to do. All right, so now I need my 4 3/8 piece. And I'm just going to come off of that score line just enough so that this will lay flat a little bit. All right, now I'm going to turn over. Or the other thing you could do is through here, but that not going to take you there. I am not going to take you there because that's a whole can of worms. Okay, that's 4.5. And then I want 4 3/8. And then I want 4 3/8. Now, ideally, these would be a lot cleaner if these weren't flapping in the wind here. So I'm going to try something. I have a set of magnets that I use that are very strong. I am going to tape them in so I can remove them if I need to. I am going to turn this over and I'll see what kind of contact there is on. Okay, good enough. That's what I'm going to do. So you'll need 4 sets. If you're, because I'm always going to get the question, I find these on Amazon and they are super, super thin. They're thinner than a dime. But don't ask me the measurements because I don't remember. Look for 10 times 2. This is so old. I'll look it up and I will find the link and I will post this in the description field. I hate to do that because then it's not being fair to Scrap and Create because they've got the basic gray magnets, which there is nothing wrong with them, but in all honesty, the layering that I've got going here, you're going to be unhappy trying to use them, and I'd rather you be happy than to purchase something that isn't going to work. So basic gray is great. I just want to make that clear. I'm going to provide that link as well because I'm going to be using some of those in this build where it's a little less, where the thickness isn't so much of a concern. Okay, so now we're going to close this. All right, so if you're watching, this would have been better if the magnet was here and under this piece. I'm looking at this upside down. And then it's only having to go through this layer. But because I've got multiple layers here, I've got to use those other magnets. And then we're going to add a layer because we're going to cut and trim pieces to cover these. So I need to get you moving on with the album because we're going to run out of, get into a long length. So you're going to, from scraps and from the 8.5 by 11, you will cut the necessary pieces to cover each of these on both sides. But let's get to the rest of covering this. So on this side, I am using this pattern piece, but I'm using the solid side. It will go here on this. And then I trimmed out a piece that this started out at, I do believe, 1.5 inches. 1 3/8. And then I did my trim die, and I cut this out of scrap. Gee, Charlie, gee, Manise Louise. Okay, and then I'm getting in a hurry now because I hate long videos for you guys. But I gotta slow down. It is what it is. Follow this up that 5/8 score line, and then we're gonna glue in this piece. So what you have here is a nice pocket. And then we're going to do that same thing over here. And then this is going to come in. Putting it on the wrong side here. There we go. I gotta trim that. I don't know what I did there. I was so careful, or at least I thought I was. Better. And then same pocket size, same floral trim. And you're going to come right up, sneak right up to that 5/8 score line. And then from the sticker sheet, I just added this little accent here. And like I said, I've got all my pieces cut and trimmed, ready to go that I will add to these, but I'll do that off camera. Let's turn this over. So here on this side, you're going to take this Big Busy Rose pattern, and I've got that upside down, so I'll just switch sides. You're going to put it, part of it here, and then this will come over here, and then on this side, I trimmed out a matching piece. And I'm trying to figure out if I like this better. I think I like this better. And then up here, you're going to trim out a 3 by 3.5. We're going to glue that right to the front. I made a corner tuck here. And then down here on the bottom, you're going to cut a piece that's going to be 4 by 4. I know what this says, but that's not what it is. It's going to be 4 by 4, and you're going to cut it on the diagonal. You may need to snip this end, but this is going to come in like this. And then, we're going to tape this edge. And then we're going to use this card to keep it closed. But I'm going to back mine on cardstock because I want it to be sturdy. So let's go ahead and get this added. And then I'm going to take this corner piece and I'm going to tuck it right here along this edge. And then I cut from scraps this red checkered, and then I took from the rub-ons Dorothy with her yellow brick road. We're just going to glue that right there in place. Okay, now we'll do this side. I am going to put this in first, because if I need to trim something off, I've got to do it here and before I get to here, because there's not much to trim off on this. So I'm going to add this first. Following my score line. And now, oh, perfect. I don't have to do any trimming. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this added in down here, right along this edge and across the bottom. Now I did trim my ends off. It just looked strange to me to see that stark point, but doesn't mean you have to. It really depends too what kind of a die, if any, that you're using, as to whether you're going to want to trim that off. And on this one, out of the rub-ons, I took the this image off. Now, when I trimmed it, I came in along the bottom of her dress. I came up and I came around the Oz, and then I arched it because there's other things on those rub-ons, and I arched it up and away so that I could put that on there. All right, so this is going to close up like so. I want to put my photo mat on. Make sure I'm putting on the right side. So this is going to go up here like this. And then I'm going to, I had several of these left over. I don't know why I had to cut so many. I'm going to trim one, use one to put on this. Okay, made my pencil mark. I've got it trimmed. I'm going to cut it. Ta-da! There we go. All right, so the only thing I need to finish on mine is to put all these panel covers on. And then we're going to go ahead and add some tape right now and get this prepped to put in the album. It's going to be easier to put those panel pieces in with this out of the album. So when you go into, if you're questioning how to put it in, I will finish that up as the first part of the next upcoming video. And I'll show you how I covered all of my panel pieces. And I'm just going to do one long strip. I usually do two, but I've got the tape here. But that should help. And like I said, on those panel pieces, those photo mat pieces, I took from scrap what I could, and then I finished cutting out of the 8.5 by 11. I picked a yellow and a green. That's what I did. So there we have it for now, and we'll finish this up when we come back for the next build. So I'll see you then. Bye-bye.